Hello learners, I'm Teacher Nan, your grade 5 science teacher. In today's lesson, I will be talking about the use of properties of material, whether they are useful or harmful. In this competency, I will be discussing about recognizing useful and harmful materials, the 5 R's techniques, and the physical and chemical properties of matter. As we move along with this lesson, we will be able to answer the following questions. When is a material useful? When is a material harmful? When is a material considered waste? How can we manage waste materials? And what are the importance of practicing 5 R's? Lastly, what are the physical and chemical properties of matter? You use different materials for cleaning, cooking, eating, and repairing. The usefulness of a certain material depends on its properties. There are materials that are durable and therefore can be reused many times, though there are some that are not meant to be reused. Creative and inventive people still find other ways to use them. There are also materials that are made for certain purposes only and can be harmful when not used or disposed properly. In order to minimize waste in our own household, we have to know which materials are still useful and which ones should already be disposed. Before throwing away any material, we must first check if it can cause harm to living things and the environment. When is a material useful? Materials are considered useful when it serves a purpose. These materials may have properties such as durability, resistance to water, heat or acid, flexibility, elasticity, and hardness. Some useful materials can also be reused. Take for example, a container for any solid or liquid material. When it is already empty, it can still be used for other purposes, like flower vase, a coin bank, or a house decor. When a bottle is made of plastic or glass, it has a property that makes it reusable. When is a material harmful? Some useful materials may also bring hazards. For example, broken glass jar can cause cuts or injury. Toxic substances may also be present in the things you commonly use, such as paints, cleaners, fumes, gels, or powders. These materials may bring harm to your health, environment, and other organisms when not used properly. That's why you should take precautionary measures when handling and using different materials. When can we tell that a material is considered waste? When a material already serves its primary use and can be discarded, it is considered a waste. Waste can be classified as biodegradable and non-biodegradable. Generally, biodegradable materials can be decomposed by bacteria or other living things. Examples include fruit peelings, dried leaves, leftover food, papers, and the like. Non-biodegradable materials do not rot easily. Examples are plastic, styrofoam, cans, glasses, and the likes. Waste materials are safely disposed into a landfill. A landfill is a dumping site where waste materials are covered with layers of soil. This is done so as not to pollute the surrounding land. Waste materials thrown in a dump site can be safe or harmful. Safe waste materials are not poisonous or toxic. Some of it can even be reused or recycled. Examples of safe waste materials include paper, clothing, plant parts, and food. Paper and clothing can be recycled, while plant and food can easily decompose and can be used as source of organic fertilizer. Harmful waste materials, on the other hand, cannot be dumped straight into a landfill. These materials can be toxic or harmful to living things when not disposed properly. Examples of toxic waste includes batteries, rubber tires, and paint. Let's do this activity. A safer home. Science skills, observing, classifying. Time frame of this activity is 10 minutes. You will need paper and ball pen. This is what you are going to do. Look around your house, list down 20 materials that you see. Second, classify the following materials as safe or harmful. Cross out the harmful waste materials. If you are done with the activity, please do not forget to pass it to your teacher advisor. Now let's proceed to the 5 R's techniques. You already know how to recognize useful and harmful materials. You can now apply what you have learned in the management of waste. How can we manage waste materials? To manage waste materials, we must do the following. First, reduce. To reduce simply means to lessen the amount of waste in the environment. This can be done by using less materials that are readily disposable, either biodegradable or non-biodegradable. It is therefore important to rethink what kind of products we are going to purchase and whether these products would benefit both humans and the environment. We can do the following. Number 1, buy rechargeable batteries instead of disposable batteries for our gadgets. This way, we can minimize waste and save money at the same time. Number 2, buy products in bigger packs than those packed in small sachets. Small sachets prevents excessive use of a product, but such practice can increase the production of non-biodegradable waste because more plastic sachets will be discarded. Another way to reduce waste is to reuse materials. Another way of waste management is to reuse. To reuse means to use again or find other ways to use a material, and the examples are as follows. Number 1, use eco bags when shopping or going to the grocery store. Second, use reusable containers when packing, storing food or drinks, and even when buying drinks. Third, use the properties of a material and find some other use for it. For example, empty bottles may be sold to junk shops or small retailers that need small containers for packaging, which minimizes waste and generates extra income for the household. Fourth, refrain from buying new materials when you still have supplies that can be reused. This way, existing materials with or without minor damage can be used again for the same or different purpose. For example, you can use water bottles as liquid containers. Number 5, donate clothes and other useful materials to some organizations that conduct relief operations during calamities. Lastly, conduct a garage sale, not just for clothes but for other items that can still be reused. Recycle. To recycle means to create a new product using a material that has already served its purpose. Recycling produces a new material out of a discarded ones, while reusing uses the same material again for the same or different purpose. For example, glass bottles can be reused as containers of other liquids or materials. However, stained glass bottles can be recycled to form a new product like bottle chimes or paperweights. Instead of reusing the bottles, a new product may be formed in recycling. Its new purpose should be different from its original function, but the idea of minimizing waste has been achieved. Recycling prevents wastage of a material that can actually be useful for a different purpose. It also reduces the use of raw materials. For example, to make a fresh paper, a tree has to be cut. But by recycling used papers to make writing paper, no tree needs to be cut anymore. Recycling not only helps reduce waste, it also provides a source of income to families by selling new products they form from discarded materials. Recover. Recover involves getting energy, materials, or substances from garbage and having these processed then reused. Example of ways of recovering energy, materials, or substances from a certain material are the following. Plastic to oil technology, which is one way of generating from plastic waste. This method involves heating plastic waste in the presence of water and processing them to produce crude oil. Then the oil can be used as a source of energy later on. Incineration technology, which involves burning piles of garbage in a huge incinerator to produce heat and electricity. Recovering waste is not limited to recovering energy. It also involves segregation of materials in a recovery facility. Collected garbage does not go straight to dump sites. Most of the time, the waste are segregated in a materials recovery facility or MRF. In an MRF, collected garbage is segregated in order to recover recyclables and biodegradable materials that can be used as compost ingredients. Through MRFs, the amount of waste to be disposed in landfills is reduced. Repair. To repair means to fix slightly broken things that make them useful again. Repairable materials include furniture, appliances, and clothes. Instead of discarding broken or busted materials, they can be checked for repairability. If still repairable, these should be repaired instead of buying new materials to replace them. What are the importance of practicing 5 R's? When you throw away a material, you just remove it from the house, but it does not really disappear. Shape or form might change, but it is still present somewhere else. The more waste materials we discard, the more trash pile up. In this regard, we should practice 5 R's to manage waste and lessen the environmental problems. It helps make our surrounding clean and beautiful. It also provides opportunities for people to earn money by selling recyclable materials to junk shops. By selling handicraft products made of recyclable materials and by putting up their own junk shop where they can buy recyclable materials and then later sell it to bigger companies who are capable of recycling waste materials. Let's check how much have you learned from the discussion about the 5 R's techniques. Determine if the sentence describes a way to promote the 5 R's of waste management. If it does, write reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, or repair on the line. If it does not, draw a sad face on the line. Number 1. Old plastic bags used several times. Number 2. Scraps of paper and old newspaper transformed into a newsprint. Number 3. Printer cartridge refilled with ink. Number 4. Turning off faucets that are not being used. Number 5. Parts from old cell phones used for repairing other phones. Number 6. Resoling worn-out school shoes. Number 7. Metal scraps from fabricating shops transformed into metal sheets. Number 8. Walking to go to nearby places. Number 9. changing the tires of a bike bought a few days ago. Number 10. Sharing rides with family or friends who are going to the same destination. Now let's check your answer. Number 1, reuse. Number 2, recycle. Number 3, reuse. Number 4, reduce. Number 5, recover. Number 6, repair. Number 7, recycle. Number 8, reduce. Number 9, sad face. Number 10, reduce. Congratulations, you did a great job. It only means that you are more ready to proceed to the next topic, which is the physical and chemical properties of matter. Matter refers to all the objects and materials around us. In studying its different kinds, we usually observe and compare it to one material to another. For example, when we describe the difference between a paper and rock, we usually look for characteristics that are not similar in the two objects being described. These characteristics that make matter distinct from one another is called properties. The properties of matter can be classified as physical properties or chemical properties. Physical properties of matter. It is a characteristic of a material that can be readily observed without changing its composition. While a chemical property is most evident when a certain material reacts with another materials chemically. Like physical properties, chemical properties of materials help us determine the usefulness of materials. Let's start with the physical properties of material. First is hardness. Hardness is the ability of a material to be rigid and resist pressure that may cause deformation or change in its shape. Hard materials like metal and wood can be used to construct buildings, bridges, or other infrastructure. Brittleness. Not all hard materials are unbreakable, though there are solid materials that when subjected to high stress or pressure crumble or break easily. This property is known as brittleness. Glass and porcelain are brittle and can break when dropped or slammed against a hard surface or object. However, they can still be useful. The broken pieces can be arranged as wall decor or as improvised spikes on walls to protect one's home from trespassers. Flexibility. It is the ability of a material to be bent without breaking. Some plastics and metals exhibit flexibility. Flexible objects like thin metal wires and plastic strings can be used for tying or binding objects and things. Elasticity. Elasticity is the ability of a material to be stretched and then returned to its original shape after. A rubber band is an example of an elastic material. Conductivity is the ability of a material to allow heat and electricity to pass through it. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Malleability. Do you know how a bar of gold can be turned into jewelry? Gold can be hammered into flat sheets until the desired shape of jewelry is obtained. This property is called malleability. Silver, iron, and aluminum are examples of malleable materials. Are bottle caps that are made of metal still useful? Yes, They may be used to make a doormat. They may also be hammered into thin sheets to make an improvised tambourine. Ductility. Some metals exhibit ductility, or the ability to be drawn into thin wires. This is why most of the electrical wirings are made up of metals. Porosity. Some materials, such as paper and cloth, can absorb liquid well. These materials exhibit porosity. Porous materials have plenty of spaces inside where liquid can be absorbed. The last one is viscosity. This is the ability of a material to resist flow. Example of this are honey, shampoo, ketchup, and the likes. Let's proceed to the chemical properties of matter. Not all properties of matter can be observed immediately. Sometimes the composition of a material has to change first before a certain property can be observed. This property is known as a chemical property. A chemical property is most evident when a certain material chemically reacts with another material. Below are some chemical properties of materials. First, combustibility and flammability. Combustibility is the ability of a material to burn, while flammability is the ability of a material to ignite or catch fire easily. Examples of combustible materials are alcohol, wood, sawdust, dried leaves, paper, wax, oil, varnish, gasoline, thinner, and kerosene. Alcohol, thinner, kerosene, and gasoline are both combustible and flammable. They can burn fast. However, not all combustible materials are flammable. For example, a big chunk of wood can burn when subjected to high amount of heat, but it will not catch fire easily unless you expose it longer so that it will start burning. Biodegradability. Biodegradability is the ability of a material to be decomposed easily. Some materials can be decomposed or decay through the actions of bacteria and other microorganisms. When these materials decompose, their particles return to the soil. Examples of biodegradable materials are fruit and vegetable peelings, plant clippings, and dead plants and animals. They can be buried in a compost pit and then covered with topsoil. Over time, earthworms and microorganisms act on the buried materials and break them down into compost, which is a natural fertilizer. Let's check how much have we learned from the discussion about physical and chemical properties of matter. I want you to match the descriptions in column A with their corresponding terms in column B. Write your answer on a sheet of paper. Now let's check the answer together. Number 1, letter C, combustibility. Number 2, letter J, flexibility. Number 3, letter F, elasticity. 4, letter D, conductivity. 5, letter A, biodegradability. 6, letter E, ductility. 7, letter I, malleability. 8, letter H, hardness. 9. Letter G, flammability. Number 10, letter B, brittleness. Good job, you are doing great. To end this lesson, I want you to create a doormat or an improvised tambourine using bottle caps. In doing such activity, please be careful and ask assistance from your parents to avoid injury. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. See you again in our next video lesson.